Before Gyomei was a demon slayer and HASHIRA. He lived with 9 children who were orphans and raised them in a temple. The area was well known for demon attacks, so Gyomei had always burned wisteria incense to ward off any demons that would harm him and the children. One night, one of the 9 children disobeyed the temple rules and traveled beyond its borders. He is immediately attacked by a demon, and in order to save his own life, he tells the demon to eat the other children as well as Gyomei. After night fell, the child invited the demon into the temple after putting out the wisteria incense. 4 children were immediately killed by the demon, and the remaining children insisted on escaping the temple, ignoring Gyomei's orders to stay with him. His frail stature and blindness fueled the distrust the children had in Gyomei's ability to protect them, which led them to abandon him and ultimately get killed by the demon. In the end, only one child, the youngest, Sayo, had listened and stayed behind in fear of the demon. Though it is unknown how the exchange went down, Gyomei had been cut across his forehead by the demon but soon reversed the situation and began attacking the demon mercilessly after realizing he had a frightening amount of power. He went on and beat the demon's head until the sun arose. Soon after, people came to the scene of the incident to help, but due to a misunderstanding, the villagers thought that Gyomei had killed the children and not the demon. He was later imprisoned and charged with the murder of the 7 children, but Kagaya Ubuyashiki intervened and released him before he could be executed. Later on, Gyomei became a demon slayer, and after only 2 months, the stone HASHIRA. When Tanjiro and Zenitsu arrive at Gyomei's training camp in the mountains, they are shocked to find all the trainees, including Inosuke, meditating under a waterfall. They turn around as Gyomei greets them and are shocked to see him standing tiptoe on burning ground while balancing logs and boulders on his shoulders. He explains that his training consists of only 3 things: training underneath the waterfall, carrying 3 logs on one's shoulders, and pushing a large boulder through a nearby town. Inosuke, who had passed out underneath the waterfall and had been resuscitated by Tanjiro, noted that he could sense that Gyomei is the strongest demon slayer, and Tanjiro agreed with this, stating that the stone HASHIRA was the only one with a different scent from the others. Gyomei is later seen pushing a giant boulder, even bigger than the one the trainees were supposed to use. The training was quite difficult, but also not compulsory, which meant quite a few of the trainees quit midway, left aghast at the effort required. Genya then reveals to Tanjiro that the chant Gyomei repeats often is in fact a series of repetitive actions designed to maximize his focus and allow him to pull off feats such as pushing the boulders. Later on, when Tanjiro successfully completes the stone HASHIRA training, he is left severely dehydrated. Gyomei pours water on him to save the boy. He then continues on and says that due to completing his training and for his actions in the swordsmith village of prioritizing the villagers over his sister, he believes Tanjiro is a true swordsman. However, Tanjiro states that the choice was made by Nezuko and not himself, and thus he could not accept Gyomei's approval. Upon seeing this, the stone HASHIRA is left further impressed at Tanjiro's honesty. With all his doubts now gone, Gyomei states that he has fully accepted Tanjiro regardless of what the other HASHIRA may say. After receiving information that Muzan has appeared, Gyomei hurried to the Ubuyashiki residence. Gyomei is there to provide backup to Tamayo after she successfully injects Muzan with her medicine and cleaves the demon's head clean off. Gyomei mournfully remembers the first time he met Kagaya when he was only 18 years old, and Kagaya told him that he knew Gyomei was not a murderer, but had fought to protect the other children at his monastery. He then remembers when Kagaya requested that he be used as a decoy to allow Gyomei to behead Muzan, also telling the stone HASHIRA that he believed the sun was the only way to defeat the demon. As Muzan regenerates his head and uses his blood demon art to attack Gyomei, the stone HASHIRA counters with a stone-breathing third form to protect himself. He is then transported inside the Infinity Castle alongside the other demon slayers. Inside the castle, Gyomei is with Muichiro at first, and the both of them slice through a myriad of weaker demons with ease. After being prodded by the mist HASHIRA, Gyomei confirms that Kagaya had intended to use himself as bait after his illness had worsened to its final stages, showing great rage at the passing of their leader. Later, somewhere in the Infinity Castle, Sonemi is fighting against Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo. As the dust from the fight clears, Sonemi is nowhere to be seen, and Gyomei states that the Demon Slayer Corps will never stop until all demons are eradicated from the world. He immediately tells Sonemi to stitch his stomach wound and to stay out of the fight until he finishes. Kokushibo accesses the transparent world to see Gyomei's structure, and says that he is the greatest swordsman he has fought in 3 centuries. Gyomei keeps swinging his flail to gain more momentum and strikes it onto the ground where the demon stood. As Kokushibo dodges the spiked flail, the chains surround his neck, and Kokushibo tries to cut the chains with his sword but fails. As the chains nearly close, Kokushibo ducks down and they only catch a small strand of hair. Kokushibo states that Gyomei's weapon is made of pure iron and that it is an extremely high-grade weapon. On the other hand, Kokushibo's sword is made out of his own flesh, so if he tries to cut the chains, his sword will burn out before cutting it. Kokushibo even implies that iron that absorbs sunlight to that extent wasn't discovered during the Sengoku era, when the swordsmithing techniques were believed to be at their peak. Both Kokushibo and Gyomei use their respective breathing styles and collide with the moon breathing and stone breathing. After the clash, 𝐭koshībo states that when his sword breaks, it'll regenerate immediately, thus making all of his attacks completely pointless and useless. Gyomei, however, does not care in the slightest. He crosses his arms and reveals that he managed to awaken his Demon Slayer mark. 𝐭koshībo starts to pity him. To the stone HASHIRA's confusion, 𝐭koshībo enters the transparent world once again, stating that Gyomei's age is around 27. He then explains that those who awaken their Demon Slayer mark will die before they reach the age of 25. He says that despite the mark increasing one's power, it also significantly shortens one's lifespan, and according to him, Gyomei will surely die by the end of the night. 𝐭koshībo praises Gyomei for mastering the stone-breathing style, but also states that it's sad that all those magnificent forms will disappear now that he awakened his mark. He questions Gyomei if he also believes that it's tragic, to which he disagrees. Gyomei elucidates that that information is old news and is outdated. He continues by saying that due to him being a member of the Demon Slayer Corps, there is no guarantee that he would see tomorrow even if he didn't awaken his mark. Gyomei finally demands that 𝐭koshībo not promote his moronic notions to others, along with him reminding 𝐭koshībo that there was a marked individual who lived past the age of 25. Angered by the demon underestimating his resolve, he again engages the upper rank. Meanwhile, Sonemi, who was able to patch up his torso injuries, also awakens his Demon Slayer mark and enters combat with Gyomei. Gyomei and Sonemi work very well together and also manage to land some very serious blows on the demon. 𝐭koshībo praises the HASHIRA even more due to their coordinated assaults, despite them utilizing different breathing styles. It is also revealed that since Gyomei is blind, he uses the rattling echoes of his chain to determine his opponent's position. The Demon Slayer combine their attacks, managing to tear off 𝐭koshībo's kimono. However, the two are suddenly injured by a mysterious attack. The demon mocks them, saying that ripping clothes can't kill even an infant, before revealing his sword's hidden power, the ability to extend and branch its own blades. Sonemi and Gyomei barely escape the onslaught, with Sonemi losing his index and middle fingers in the process. 𝐭koshībo continues his relentless assault, launching consecutive attacks towards the two HASHIRA with his moon breathing, with Gyomei concerned that the upper rank's reach has increased even further along with the speed of his attacks. As the battle rages on, the stone HASHIRA eventually realizes that the demon's eyesight is unnatural, and that he can somehow predict the Demon Slayer's movements. In a moment of concentration, he sees through 𝐭koshībo's body, realizing that he's entered the same transparent world as the upper rank, allowing him to perceive 𝐭koshībo's movements and techniques. With this new development, the trio collectively charge at 𝐭koshībo, aiming to use their newfound advantage and execute the demon quickly. The upper rank attempts to cut them all down at the same time using his moon breathing, but they manage to dodge the swings and close the gap. Gyomei distracts 𝐭koshībo's attention, allowing Sonemi to approach with his wind breathing, stunning the demon, and allowing Gyomei to rip his right arm off with his flail. 𝐭koshībo notices the approaching Mist HASHIRA and attacks him, managing to sever the Demon Slayer's leg, but not before being impaled in the stomach with his Nichiren sword. Unfortunately for the humans, the upper rank's head is still intact after the barrage. The demon attempts to finish off the trio with the moon breathing, but suddenly, Genya emerges from the shadows, now fully transformed into a demon, and fires his mutated Nichiren gun at 𝐭koshībo. As 𝐭koshībo gazes at Genya's new appearance, the bullets that punctured 𝐭koshībo's skin transform into a large wooden tree, constricting him to the ground and protecting Muichiro from his attacks. Gyomei takes this opportunity to engage 𝐭koshībo once again, with the demon realizing that he is in great danger. Genya realizes that his bullets are still within 𝐭koshībo's flesh and, wanting to save everyone, he unleashes his blood demon art, Blood Roots. Another tree root comes out of the upper rank's back, and he attempts to use his moon-breathing technique to finish Genya off, but without success. Gyomei takes the opportunity to land his spiked flail on top of the upper moon's head, attempting to crush it. This, however, is not the case, as 𝐭koshībo's skull withstands the blunt attack of Gyomei's flail. He then swings his axe upwards to cut 𝐭koshībo's neck, but the demon blocks it with his flesh sword. Muichiro manages to turn his blade bright red, and it reminds 𝐭koshībo of his younger brother's sword. He thinks to himself how the current HASHIRA generation is extraordinary. Sonemi swings his blade at Gyomei's flail in order to give it more momentum, but unintentionally, both their weapons begin to turn red as well. With these new weapons, they are capable of bypassing the upper rank's durability and regeneration, thus finally beheading 𝐭koshībo. To the horror of all the demon slayers, 𝐭koshībo's head starts to regenerate. Gyomei and Sonemi continue to attack the demon, but the upper rank swiftly dodges their attacks. 𝐭koshībo is revealed to have drastically changed in appearance. He has two horns protruding out of his head and multiple hooks that were once the blades emerging from his body. Sonemi sees the upper rank's head fully regrown and panics, as seemingly all their efforts were in vain. Gyomei tells him to keep pressing the upper rank, as his body must be more fragile than it was before. Meanwhile, 𝐭koshībo is disgusted by his new appearance, and he questions everything he has done up to this point. Memories of his younger brother and his past overwhelm him to the point that he gives up. This gives Gyomei the chance to engage and finally behead 𝐭koshībo once and for all. After the upper moon is defeated, Sanemi is still sprinting in random directions and swinging his sword. Gyomei grabs him and yells that the battle is over and the upper rank 1 is dead. Sanemi goes completely limp in Gyomei's arms after hearing his explanation. Gyomei is surprised how Sanemi lost consciousness and still fought the upper rank and lays him down on the ground. Gyomei comes within Genya's vicinity and points out to Muichiro's mutilated body. He states that without both his and Genya's help, they would stand no chance of beheading the upper rank. With him shedding tears, Gyomei closes Muichiro's eyes and vows to complete their mission to defeat Muzan. Sanemi screeches and shouts Genya's name in mental agony, not wanting to believe that his brother is really gone. Gyomei interrupts Sanemi's grieving, telling him that the night isn't over and that Muzan Kibutsuji still has to be defeated. At the battlefield, Tanjiro is close to death, and the Hashiras are getting slashed and cut by Muzan's attacks. Mitsuri gets the worst of Muzan's barrage, and just as she was about to get impaled by one of Muzan's arm tentacles, a sudden impact destroys that tentacle, saving Mitsuri. It soon turns out to be Gyomei, coming to everyone's surprise, especially the Demon Kings, as Muzan comments to himself that Gyomei is the one who has defeated his right-hand man, Kokushibo. Muzan's attacks keep getting fiercer, adding more pressure onto the Hashiras. Gyomei even points out that without Transparent World, it is nearly a gamble to be able to dodge the Demon King's attacks. Gyomei tries to re-enter the Transparent World by listening for echoes from the Demon Lord's body, just like he did against the upper rank 1. He succeeds and visualizes multiple hearts and brains throughout the Demon Lord's body. Despite the overall complexity of organs and their functions, the Demon Lord was still able to create multiple same organs, thus explaining him being able to survive decapitation so easily. What's even more interesting, they don't have a fixed location as they always move around, making them incredibly difficult to hit. However, he tries to make the most of the situation and aids others by helping them access the Transparent World as well. Gyomei manages to turn his weapon red once again and lands a significant hit on Muzan, completely tearing a part of his body. However, the tide of the battle quickly changes as Muzan performs his special attack, defeating all Demon Slayers at the same time. As Gyomei regains consciousness, he witnesses Tanjiro and his fellow Demon Slayers pinning Muzan into a corner. Seeing that the sun is about to rise, Muzan panics and transforms himself into a giant baby, trying to escape from the battlefield. Despite all the combined attacks on the Demon King, it doesn't stop him from trying to escape into the ground. Gyomei puts his chain around Muzan's neck and tries to pull him away with the help of the other Demon Slayers, stopping him from digging any deeper into the ground. Being unable to escape from the sun in any way, the demonic infant wails and bawls as it finally disintegrates. Thus, the Demon Lord, Muzan Kibutsuji, is finally dead and defeated forever. At near-death state, Gyomei sees an image of his orphan friends that he raised in the temple, with saddened looks in their eyes. They apologize to Gyomei for what happened the night the demon attacked them. Gyomei, feeling overwhelmed, starts crying and apologizes for not being able to protect them. They all hug him and tell him that they have been waiting for him all this time, with Gyomei finally dying in peace. Check out this video where we explain the entire story of Zenitsu Agatsuma. Trust me, it's an excellent video.